be pretty much the same.
Yeah, and early on we did see that they were willing to open up picks like Novaria and as well as the Arlot to just go right through. But something that's constant throughout the series is that we're not really seeing any form of Nolan to be played out. So RSGMY making sure of that, especially when you are on that blue side. So Matilda always gonna be a little bit more of a heavy threat. Is this is just gonna be throwing them very much off tempo when it comes down to all of the team fights. So far, I'm just liking how in the early stages of the game, just falling back to what happened on game number two, RSGMY, they had that huge target priority onto catching Novaria on those mid rotations. So they weren't really too concerned. They definitely do give a little bit more of a warning sign to YRG. Hey, you got to think twice before you go for that Novara pick again.
Yeah, I mean, you have a Fanny that can go all the way
Mhm.
back unscathed. So all the way back, the first target, Novara, you take that down, and Novara is fairly vulnerable to the Fanny,
Mhm.
easily been taken down. So hence, yeah, that will be an easy first target. Once you deal with that, then you start to look at, okay, who's the next closest target that is soft enough for me to deal enough damage, or if they even group up, and we all know that Vanny can deal damage in a group as well. So that will be the second choice. Um, so having like a Novaria, I mean, it's not a bad idea. It gives vision and all that, but because of the Fanny pick, Novaria had a hard time to play.
Yeah, and it's also very interesting that we see a little bit more shift of dimension of how the bands are looking like. The Guinevere as well as Valentina is being banned out. That actually leaves quite a number of options on the table as well. The last game we see a Joy ban, so that is also being opened up. Maybe RSG wants to actually secure it for themselves, and with the Valentina being banned away, you could basically have a little bit more room for even picks like Kadida to come back up on board. Something that RG may not actually find success in that very first game, but it was to none of their own faults in that sense. More like the total draft composition that didn't really allow that form of spacing with that hypermobility that YRG plays out. So Arlot is going to be the final ban here in the first phase. Now let's see what Stormsky is going to go for because you got so many of all these open slots. Like Terizla is one of them if they want to go ahead to secure the XP laner. But I won't say it's kind of like the first pick kind of scenario for you to secure that XP laner. So they would eye out for something of that can pose a huge threat towards the side of YRG.
Yeah, so the only change in the bands, as we kind of predicted, is the Valentina. So that opens up
Mm.
the Faramis instead. Is Zanami likely to play the Faramis since the Valentina is out? And we did talk about it multiple times that how comfortable Izanami is with the Valentina. But funny enough, it was them who banned it out. So yeah, I guess
Mm.
they have something else in mind to try and throw off YOODO Red Giants. Coming back onto the other side, since the Gunevera is out, I'm not sure if they will pick a assassin jungler that early. Even if they want to, they might go for the second phase pick, because if you pick it this early, there's so many counters for it. So coming back to the Bruno, which is a staple pick by now by a lot of these teams, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a Bruno Novaria combo. Let's go.
Yeah, spot on. That is going to be the heaviest priority for the side of YRG. That is pretty much a no-brainer execution so far. As much as the Novaria was heavily punished in that previous round, I don't suspect that they're going to go for another Fanny pick heading into this lifeline game of the series. So Bornzy as well as Stormski, they have a lot of options before we move into the second phase. So either if they want to leave the marksman for later or now, they would have to decide as to how this one will probably go. They secure themselves that Lancelot as well as that Brody. So heading into the
Mm.
other phase, all they have to do is just dwindle down the pool of what the XP laner is going to look for.
I mean, assassin jungler again for Vinogo. Yeah. We saw this yesterday. He was brilliant with the Lancelot as well. So even if you ban on the Fanny or you want to take out the Fanny, yeah, he will go for like, oh, no worries, I have a Lancelot in my pocket. So now it's a question of like, how are you going to deal with the Lancelot? The Lancelot is swift, it is fast, so you need to find a level of CC to try to stop the Lancelot. Now, in this current phase, I would say one of the potential ones might be a Kaja, single target, divine judgment, goes in and pulls him out. But looks like they're not picking the roamer yet. So they're still keeping that wild card, that roamer, to see how they can try to counter the Lancelot.
Yeah, that's a really good call, especially with the displacements of the divine judgment. It will basically pull it far away from the side of Ramis. So especially with the form of approach that we're looking at from the side of YRG right now, they already have a very solid engagement tool with the Yuzong flying in with a Black Dragon form. So you need more follow up. So they also have to be very careful with their choices of ban. Though they do have that form of priority, they also want to save some really good picks for themselves. They're the ones who
Interesting.
ban the Kaja instead.
Yeah. Okay. Usually just they themselves ban out the Kaja. Okay. So I wonder what do they have in mind to try to counter the Lancelot. But frankly speaking, I think the Lancelot is doable as compared to a Fanny. Like Fanny, you need like really specific heroes to try to counter. The Lancelot, yeah, it is kind of doable. You can still get the tanky frontliner sort of heroes with good CC like a Minotaur to try to counter that. So I guess that's also some of the options that they can explore as well. Um, if not, the Kufra is still open, by the way. So Kufra is pretty decent. Used by Yums a lot. So I think that can be one of the options. So perhaps with that sort of thought process, RSG might want to consider the Kufra to be taken out.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, they might even go back into the roaming Cho as well, which have actually
Hmm.
worked out for them. And judging for the fact that what we have for the first three picks coming out of RGMY looks to be a lot more squishier, so it could also easily burst somebody down when comboed right with the rest of YRG's arsenal. So that's going to be the joy taken off the block as well from the side of RSG's choice of ban. So Yumski with the very final one. It's gotta also think like whatever they pick, this is that counter that they really have to deal with, and that will be the Terizla. So it's not going to be a huge AOE type of play style that they want to actually face off against a Faramis on the block, because the moment that they keep everybody around that penalty zone and you just have this Faramis just doing a work and just keeping all of them intact, it just gets much, much harder for the side of YRG. So I can definitely see why they ban out that Terizla.
Yeah, it's been a while since we saw a Terizla ban slash pick. It's been a couple of games, so it's nice to see that Terizla is making it back onto our draft. Oh, last week, yep, Minotaur. We did talk about like, okay, you can still deal with the Lancelot with major CC, so Minotaur is out. But there's still the Kufra open though, so that's totally that's a big option there. I wouldn't be surprised if we go for a Kufra. Okay, let's go Yum's Kufra.
Well, we'll just gotta wait and see. But I think like it is possibly one of the better options on the table, because if RGMY does actually land a Kufar of their own, then it would also be rather difficult for them to actually juggle with those sort of team fights. So,
Oh.
huh? Is that Hilda I'm seeing?
Okay. I see the idea here. Okay, so you get a Hilda who is very heavy jungle invader, even
Hmm.
arguably even heavier than a Baxia. So the idea is to like, okay, go into the jungle, stop Vinogo from getting the purple buff. That is the mission of Hilda. So I wouldn't be surprised. And if you kind of think about the play style of Yus, he is able to do it. He's able to play the Cho going in really close into enemy territory. He's going to be able to do it with the Hilda.
Yeah, and now we're also seeing some really, really huge picks coming out of RSG, where they are just doubling down on that lockdown. So you are having that Cho being snatched away, and I'm just looking at the Khalid as well. This
Ooh.
is going to be a rather difficult. And now hovering onto the Fanny, are you really certain about this? I think like it can be a really good angle, but you got to look out for the Warrior Dragon. But this looks a little bit better if they are actually going for a hard hitting assassin, or better yet, go for that Ling where you just play ultra mobility across the map, just hopping over and eventually dropping the tempos on top of these team fights in order to deal heavy blows. So they finally locked down the Akai, so that will be the answer to what they've selected for the Cho.
Yeah, I'm happier that they took the Akai instead because I wasn't sure that they needed like heavy mobility since they have a Yuzong who's able to go in for the backline, deal with whoever who's there. So the Akai is a better choice since they could use a frontliner. Because here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the decider game between RSG and YOODO Red Giants, and we're gonna start it off with as expected. Yums is going to go deep inside to try to stop Vinogo from getting his buffs.
And here we go. There's going to be a lot of pressure. Yusuke has to flicker away and will manage to actually survive to tell the tale. A very risky attempt coming in from this Hilda. Like you did say, it's going to be a very heavy commitment in order for them to stop any form of a progress happening in the jungle for Vinogo. So I guess this formula might just actually work out, but it is something that we are not used to seeing coming out of Yumski, but he is very willing to just be that pesky type of roamer to continuously do chunks against the rest of RSG.
But you know that is why Storm he uses the Cho. So at least you have like good mobility with the Cho, and also Cho normally will go for a tank build. So that is kind of like the security guard for RSGMY to try to stop Yums from invading the jungle as much. Now that is why I guess that Yums is not able to go in as deep because of that Cho, and we can see how Cho traded his health to try to stop Yums. But now without Cho is currently on the top side of the map, and look at where Yums' position is at. He's trying to sniff out where Vinogo is at and try to stop him from doing Vinogo stuff.
And immediately pouncing onto Bornzy, and that actually forces a very early flicker. So already giving a little bit more advantage as well as leeway into the turtle pit. Though Stormski is around the corner, will be doing exactly the same job as what Yumski did to them. Though they are absolutely outnumbered, therefore RSGMY, they funnel their resources over the top end of the turret, and this will be an exchange that will go down. And it's first blood instead for Lolio.
Wow, okay. That must be the stack of damage dished out at the top lane. Now Yum's surrounded by 3 players by RSGMY, but he is a Hilda, so he should be able to get away easy, and they're not going to go full commit onto him. But considering that the first blood was onto Super Sif, so I guess he's going to provide a little bit more protection to the goal later.
Indeed it will. Just doing a little bit of scouting duty. Already spotted 3 members out of YOODO Red Giants. No harm for Snowski for the time being. Izanami is going to be joining the fray as well. Gotta be very careful on where they step, and look at the output by Yumski already chunking them down, forcing them to go in for the recall. Meanwhile, the rest of YOODO Red Giants, they have 4 members over the top, and they're gonna go for a 2 against 1. Black Dragon form being forced out. Meanwhile, the huge damage numbers onto Stonesy not being able to burst him down just yet.
Ooh, very, very defensive play by RSGMY. And can you fault them? Well, not really, because right now they are leaving this 50-50 still. Probably waiting for the first turtle to go up, and then that's where they will start to be in action. But now Yums going in with the jungle invade onto the purple buff. He is all alone. His teammates Lolias on the other side. Lolias comes in to give backup. So all time being called upon. Izanami goes back to full health. And looks like the purple buff been stolen away by Skies.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much of a pressure being caused by the Hilda. Yumski doing an excellent job so far, not even faltering in some of all these very, very risky attempts, especially the initial one back in the first purple. Now, on the second attempt, they are finally successful in stealing one buff away to deny Lancelot a little bit more of that EXP at the very least. So, still got an orange buff, but Yumski is already on duty. This time around, drawn by the XP later. I don't think he will survive to tell the tale. Can he steal it though? It will still falter, but there is Izanami now challenging the turtle as well. So, giving one away for free. Let's see if we can get this one. Oh, Izanami steals it away.
Oh man, and they're not done yet with the fight though. Now the heavy spin comes in by Skies onto Penogo, pinning him down. This is the answer to Lancelot, ladies and gentlemen. The heavy spin onto the wall, and they're not done yet. Izanami will be the next one to fall. Double kill will be given to Gorgeous. Triple kill onto Ponzi this time. Gorgeous, Prince Gorgeous, Maniac, ladies and gentlemen. The Prince has ascended the throne.
And that was, although delayed, but it was beautifully done by Gorgeous. 4 in a row, and he just absolutely had that whole control by the river, and there is just another feast for the eyes of the audience. Let's take a look at it once more.
And look at the Black Dragon form into the middle, but Gorgeous coming in at the right timing. And look at the amount of focus and the U-turn that came back. Skies was at the right moment, at the right time as well. And Gorgeous with that Maniac is just gorgeous indeed.
Yeah, we love to see it. It's not every single day that you actually get a Yuzong to get a Maniac so early in the game, because usually on the EXP lane, it can get a little bit more mundane. Now, they do get a pick over onto Yumski. Force the flicker away, and that was done rather swiftly as well. Though that wasn't exactly a full commitment coming from the side of RSG just yet, because the turtle is about to spawn in less than 30 seconds, and just to be specific, 15 from now. So the rest of YRG, they're just gonna be keeping their eyes on whether if they can finally take one for their own, because the last one got stolen away. Now Yumski does not have flicker. They will just pile on top of this roamer. And Lolo once again add one more to the block. So this is a Brody just stacking up all of these resources, and now this is just a break wall that they're forming up. Black Dragon Bump a little bit too late, and now they will collide. RGMY just being very, very disciplined on their approach, knowing that they've already got the turtle. They don't really have to put on too much further, but they are also looking to see if they can crack down the second tier turret down bottom.
Yeah, look at the movement of Skies. I would assume that he is not ready with the items to sort of be that tanky frontliner. That's why he didn't really move in. He didn't really want to take that risk, so he had to let that turtle go to RSGMY. RSGMY right now, despite them being behind by 1 kill, but they have the slight goal advantage of about 1,000. Not too significant, I must say. Of course, there's a lot of opportunity to come back. But for Skies, he is hovering around, but they will not go all into him. I mean, at the end of the day, even though he's not as tanky as Yumski, but he's still tanky enough to not draw that attention.
That's right. Belt now online as well. So that's going to be the asteroid call revealing a majority of the members of RSGMY. But of course, no call to action just about yet. YOODO Giant is trying to recuperate, though surely they do have maybe just one extra kill. It's pretty much dead even for both sides, but Nogo matches the crap just in the nick of time. Of course, that requires them to now attend to a little bit more of a split pressure coming in from all ends. It's a 1-2-2 formation now being set up by the side of RSG. They're looking to deal blows onto the mid-side turret and just have a lot more wiggle room for Lancelot over the top side. But here we go.
Guys, goes in with a heavy spin, but it's more of like a defensive heavy spin. However, he used that in about 10 more seconds before the actual lot comes out. So Now he's without a heavy spin, and RCMY, they know that, so that's why they're going in at this moment, and they will take advantage of Skies, who clearly doesn't have heavy spin, taken out of the map, and now with the Lord up, Yums will need to be the big man in front.
Yeah, that was basically two ultimates expended right before the Lord, so they are heavily disadvantaged into the fight. There's no entry tool unless Prince Gorgeous forces his way in, but there's just no sign of Gorgeous across the board. They have to give this one to RSG.
And Vinogo, okay, we haven't seen the best of Vinogo just yet. I mean, only one kill so far. So let's see. He's still farming. He's still trying to secure the buffs before he's able to be in real action. But now that the Lord is out, the focus will be on the mid, just to buy time for the Lord to be in the right position before they push onto the first turret.
Yeah, this is going to be a very awkward scenario as well, because the top side of the turret is so brittle. Do they really want to fully commit to defend that? Because mid side is pretty much under pressure right now. Somsky gets a beautiful kick of the Warrior Dragon, but that's not really the target that he desires. Black Dragon's form once again used, but not having the ability to engage upon the rest of RSG. Now they've escorted the Lord, and this is where they finally opens up a pick against Bornsey, and the fight erupts. Izanami will chill out the Cult Altar in a moment's time, but it will be Vinogo that gets clipped off by the Hurricane, and Izanami has got to make his way to safety. They did get themselves another turret with the help of the Lord, and opens up mid.
Yeah, they open up with the Lord just at the doorstep of a YOODO Red Giants, and with that YOODO Red Giants will lose two turrets, one in the middle, the second one at the top. So this will open up a little bit more space for RSGMY to jungle invade moving forward. And now, looking over at the items, looks like for RSGMY, without the Dom Ice, they're just not bothered about the tankiness of, say, Yums, or they're not even bothered about the tankiness of Sky. So they're going to focus on to probably getting more kills onto the backline, where Novaria and still RSG dropping the ball as well if they're not careful.
Yeah, the Red Giants, they've been able to look for those form of pickoff, but the longer this game progresses, we also have to remember, like you said, Lolil is going to eventually hit that hyper scaling where nobody's going to be able to touch him without getting chunked out. So this is basically the catch-22 situation here. Like, how fast can the Red Giants go? But at the same time, when you go fast, can you ensure that you can actually win those former team fights? And it's not just one person that they really have to deal with other than Vinogo. Sure, they catch Vinogo twice, as well as Bonzi a couple of times, but ultimately the backline remains to be safe, and this player here, Lowhills, he will be having a lot of wiggle room to actually melt down all these members of YOODO Red Giants, whether they're tanky or not.
Now, YOODO Red Giants, they need to be aware of something. Early on, if you remember, two outs expanded just before the Lord came out. So, I guess the intention was to save Gorgeous, but then the moment they expanded two outs, RGMY, they know that that's their opportunity. So, this is something that YOODO Red Giants will need to be careful of, not to expand all these valuable skills when the objective comes out. And now, speaking of objective, it is out, and everyone has their own outs.
True enough, especially Gorgeous does have basically all the tools necessary. Here comes the Black Dragon form. They are going to crash right through mid. Cult out there now open up. They will still get their HP bars set back up. And Stormsky, he will be able to find one, but the Harkin Dance is already hitting onto majority members. No follow-up whatsoever. Too deep of a dive. Damage done onto the side of YOODO Red Giants, taking down two.
Ooh, man. I mean, the turret was still up, though. So basically, YOODO Red Giants, they were fighting underneath the turret. And like what you mentioned, Izanami still has his out. So the moment he pops it up and they're underneath the turret, it's an easy U-turn for RSGMY.
Yeah, like this, having the perfect setup for RSGMY delivered at their doorstep. Now, another Lord being lost out by YOODO Red Giants. Flickers away. Zach Cutie tries to escape, but that really puts him in a very passive role at the moment on this Novaria. So things are not really working as well as YOODO Red Giants have hoped for.
Oh man, if only they didn't like made that overextension, or if they had the comms to say that, hey, you know what, Faramir still has the ult, so let's not go in for it. Then that would probably be a different result. At least they would like dance for the Lord, like make it 50-50. But the moment they did that, then it was a straightforward counter by RSGMY. And now, YOODO Regiants, they have to deal with the Lord at the top lane, and also because of that, they're losing the map control to RSG.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at another factor here for YOODO Red Giants. They don't really have that burst damage that's clearly enough to actually take somebody down before, you know, they cult out their channels out over true. But top side, RGMY is looking to crack open the base. That's all that they are looking for. We spot out the KOHAI, not that they want to actually engage on them. That could have actually been a good moment for them to actually go in for a pin through the wall, but still a little bit of a risky move, especially with so much of all these minions cutting right through. So, Mornzy now getting sniped, but there is a goal sign for the rest of YRG to eventually look for Stormski, but that's just one. They still have more fish to fry.
Yeah, Stormski bought time at the top lane. However, no return on the mid lane or on the bottom lane, so sacrifice was a little bit in vain. But that would open up opportunity for YOODO Red Giants now to take down the mid turret. They are looking at that, and they need to take that down in order to open up the map a little bit more, as Vinogo arrives straight onto Skies, but it's just going to be a tickle there, as he don't intend to go all in yet.
Yeah, RGMY, they just have the power to just clear these waves very, very efficiently, especially with the Brody being around. Izanami, he's just going to be getting a little bit more face check done. YOODO Red Giants, I'm just looking at the damage numbers, right? It really feels like Skies didn't feel all too comfortable playing a tank jungler, if that's ever the case, where it's just a little bit lacking, and you're relying on Zach Cutie and Prince Gorgeous right now alongside with Civ. It's going to take a long time before you get this Bruno to be pretty efficient in some of these team fights, and even in those extended trades, they need to ensure that they remain to be safe. It's really, really hard to do so, especially with Stormski around.
Oh yeah, because he is a solid frontliner, and by this time, his items must be stacked up. But speaking about stacking up, hopefully he's stacked up for this fight now at the Lord Pit, as both teams now circling around. But look at this, Vinogo is still all the way up there, so that's a sign that RGMY will go in, but the way the dragon comes out to Yumski, the Black Dragon form will fly in as well. Yumski flickers away, but look who's there, it's gonna be Bonzi! Flickering all the way to Black Line to secure that kill, but at the same time, Vinogo! He's going in for it, but there's no minutes for him to finish up the job!
Oh, he almost got it in the back as well. The rest of YOODO Red Giants have managed to snip out the backdoor attempt, but clearly that was a risk. From the get-go, he has been spending so much time over the top side, and of course, it does smell a little bit fishy from the side of RGMY, where YOODO Red Giants didn't really spot the Lancelot in any of these fights. It's great measures that they actually pulled back, and they did try to defend Zach Cutie in that form of position as well, and just about enough time for them to at least attend to that push.
Yeah, that was close enough though. Like what you said, right? It was like games that do not see Vinogo on the map, and all of a sudden he shows up at top, and immediately they go back instead of committing all in onto the Lord instead, because they know the potential of backdooring. And now we're back to 50-50 with Yums back in the fray, but this time it's going to be Storm shooing him, zoning him out. The Black Dragon form will be called upon, and we can see that Gorgeous goes in straight onto the backline, but the call out has been called out upon as well, and Zach QT will be taken down. Going in straight onto the backline, but no go is that to shut down Gorgeous. Looking for more. Next is going to be Skies.
And the problem right now is they really don't have enough damage. They get the perfect catches, but what then? There's just not enough birds to take them all down. That cult outer by Izanami, giving them more time, more space. They're looking for the final blow onto Yumski. Yumski survives, but all the members of RSG MY is alive, and they are knocking down the doors of YOODO Red Giants, and the wave is here. They will eventually break it all down. RSGMY reverse sweeps YOODO Red Giants.
My, oh my. After a round number one that was so heavily siding YOODO Red Giants, RSGMY, what an amazing comeback. I must say the formula is that you give Vinogo assassin junglers, and he will do what Vinogo does.
Yeah, and it's just so beautiful on how well they've been able to come up with this form of draft and also have that formula and ideation. The moment that I see that Faramis was open up, I think like that actually gives a lot more confidence to RSGMY and say, hey, we can start playing more of all these 5 versus 5 compositions and not really take any form of a risk for going for just risky attempts and such. And now they've actually put that pressure upon the side of YRG, and from the draft itself, I guess like they were more focused onto how to counter the enemy jungle instead, and RSGMY, they played their own game and they played it to perfection.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So now teams watching this in the future, obviously they've already qualified to the next stage, they're done for the day. Teams who are watching this will be thinking to themselves that, okay, do we expand bans onto jungler assassins and let everything else open? This is now the versatility that RSG MY has shown, and when it comes to the drafting phase, will be feared by the other teams. But speaking about other teams, so for YOODO Red Giants, it's not over for them yet. They still have a, so to speak, a lower bracket to play for after this. So they're waiting, they'll be chilling while waiting for the next game to finish before knowing who exactly their opponent is.
Yeah, but their upcoming match is never going to be an easy feat as well, because they will have to face off against perhaps one of the MPL PH representatives heading into these upcoming battle. And just going back, right, like the ideation was quite clear for how YRG wants to play things out. If things go very, very well, you expect this Hilda to always go in for all these invades to put the no-go behind, but it wasn't exactly stopping this Lancelot from getting back in control heading into its mid game. And once they do, like, look at just the huge stack of layering of defenses being churned out by the rest of RSG. Nothing too much that they can do once the cult altar is up, and like whatever utilities that's being thrown out gets negated essentially.
Yeah, and here it is, 10-8. It was pretty much 50-50 towards the end, I must say. Yeah, there was some moves that, you know, I would like to hear a little bit more from YOODO Red Giants, like expanding 2 outs prior to the Lord coming up. So that's one. And then I guess it's also like how they're going to deal with Vinogo now that they have felt his Fanny, they have felt his Lancelot, the 2 main assassin junglers. And if they were to meet again, like what is going to be the answer to him?
Yeah,
right now it's going to be hard.
And although we are seeing a little bit of a push and pull going on, I think that RSG also has a lot of things that they can learn from this whole series. Of course, they did drop one game early on, but the bounce back and